Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Michelle and this is Easily Knitfluenced. Today we are going to be doing a bit of a different video. We got to the end of May and I realized I had not done enough knitting to justify putting together a podcast episode. For background, we had lots of guests over the course of May, so I think we had people staying with us for almost 3 weeks over the course of May, different groups, and it was a wonderful time, all family, we had a really great time, but it meant that I didn't have a lot of just sitting around knitting time. We were just busy with our family. So today I'm going to be doing a pattern roundup, kind of inspired by really my Instagram feed. So for those of you who don't know, I am half Japanese. I grew up in Japan, grew up in Tokyo for a good part of my life. I speak Japanese as well. And now that I've been on sort of knitting social media for a little while, in my knitting feed, I'm getting patterns by Japanese designers, and it sort of inspired me to take a closer look at Japanese knitting, Japanese designers, and start to compile a favorites sort of bundle on Ravelry. So I will link that below, but I'm going to run through 20 different patterns today from lesser known designers, or at least lesser known here in the West. And just see, what you guys think of them, and hopefully bring a little more awareness and, a little more attention to some designers that maybe don't get the limelight that they would deserve. So I have some notes here on the patterns and sort of my thoughts on them. I've also got a screen down here, so if you see me sort of looking down, that is why. And I'll be putting up pictures and, names and details and stuff on the screen as we go along. So, don't worry, you'll see plenty of different stuff here. So I might even just move to the side a little bit. So I'll put some pictures up on this side of the screen. Oh, before I forget, what I'm wearing today, this is the Tied Loops tee by Other Loops, and I knit this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Haze. So it's June, we're in summer now in New York. This is like a perfect just work from home top, so loving this one. I wear this all the time. And even though this yarn wasn't my favorite to knit with, like, the result was so worth it. So I find myself drawn to it over and over, which just kills me. But in any case, really love this top. So I think overall, if you look at knitting social media and like the big knitting designers, at least in the Western hemisphere, it's pretty dominated by the Scandinavians, right? You've got Petite Knit, My Favorite Things Knitwear, like all of these like really famous designers are Scandinavian. And I think the Japanese designers have a bit of a different style, which I think could be interesting if you're into that kind of style. So the Scandinavians, I feel like they've really mastered that like slouchy cool girl look, like the sort of, understated, simple design, like really nice construction, but sort of the, like don't care, but in a very sophisticated way type of outfit, if that makes sense. The Japanese style, I think, is a little different. Like they do some of that, but I'd say on the whole, their designs are maybe a little more whimsical. I think they draw inspiration from like the botanical side of things a lot more. And if you know anything about Japanese culture, for obvious reasons, they like doing that. And then I think like fabric wise as well, you see a lot more like airy, light, kind of breathable type of designs in Japanese knitwear, because the summers there are, they're so hot. So, people layer items and sort of keep cool with like much thinner sort of designs. So you'll see a couple of those in my lineup here today. A few notes, I will not be covering Midori Hirose today. Classic, amazing designer. I think she does awesome work, but she is so well known. The ranunculus in particular, I think is a very favorite pattern among many knitters. And she doesn't really need me, like, proselytizing for her, basically. But she's phenomenal. Obviously, she's a Japanese knitter. But I'm going to cover some folks who I think maybe don't get as much attention as she does. Then the other thing I want to note is I will not be saying the names in the traditional Japanese way, which is last name first, then first name, because according to my data, most of my listeners are in North America, so I'm not going to confuse everybody. I will be doing the English, convention of saying names, which is first name, last name. And then a note on size inclusivity. Now, I'm all for size inclusivity. I will say Japan and frankly, a lot of East Asia is way, way, way behind on these things. Not saying it's okay. In fact, when I lived in Japan, it was sort of a constant struggle to find shoes and clothes and just basic things that fit me. And I ended up doing a lot of my clothes shopping, either in Europe or in the US, unfortunately. You know, that is unfortunately just the way things are out there. So, you know, with these patterns, I've found patterns that, you know, have English versions, so you won't have to do the Google Translate. But in terms of the size inclusivity, there's some that are like decent, others that really aren't. So, you know, just a word, it's, you know, I think it's just one of those things that they need to do a lot more work on. But that is unfortunately not just a feature in the knitting world in Japan, but generally, you know, and a lot of East Asian countries are like that. But with all that out of the way, let's get started. And I'll sort of say the name of the designer first and showcase a couple of different patterns from them that I think are interesting, that I like. So we're going to start with Tomomi Yoshimoto. Now, she is a great example of the sort of the whimsy side of Japanese knitting. So she has a bunch of great sweater patterns that I'll run through now. So the first one is the bookshelf sweater. This is just so fun. It's so cute, really whimsical. I feel like, you know, if you didn't want the text there, you could do this as sort of just the bottom half with that kind of book pattern. I think this is just such a fun one. I'll kind of say a little bit about the construction if the information is available. So this is a sport weight, and it's knit bottom up, and then the sleeves seems like they are seamed on. Yes. Yeah, so I think a pretty basic construction. So really, really fun. I just love looking at this. And then there's another pattern from her that you may have seen, maybe. This is called the drawing sweater. So this might have come across your Instagram feed. I feel like I've seen this one quite a bit. This is also a sport weight. So Tomomi Yoshimoto likes the sport weight pattern. So if you're a sport weight knitter, great. You know, I think she has a couple of really interesting options. This is just so beautiful. The flowers, like I said, the botanical, it's there. You know, there's a sample picture in here with the white and the blue flowers, but then the opposite as well. So like a dark blue flower with like a lighter background. Stunning. I think it's just so pretty. It's so pretty. And I'm trying to find if this doesn't say if it's knit top or bottom down, so I can't tell you that, but a gorgeous sweater. I love this. Then we have something a little different. This is the link sweater. And this one is probably not one for me because I'm not a good crocheter, but this is a mix between crochet and knitting. So the top, kind of the fleur-de-lis pattern that you see there is all crochet. So that's kind of a clover fleur-de-lis type of floral pattern. And then the bottom is knit. And this is an interesting construction. So apparently this starts from the bottom, you work the yoke up, and then the other parts are worked top down. So it looks like you can try the sweater on and choose the length and type of neck that you have. And if you look through the sample pictures, there's people who have like the full crochet over the whole top, and others who have like a stripe of knitting and then like a crochet pattern across and then more knitting. So number of different ways you could work this, but I think this is so pretty. Like that first picture, it's just so cute. And then last one from her is the time sweater. This is just so fun. Again, it's a sport weight. This is knit from the top down, classical construction, divide for body and sleeves, all of that. But how fun is this? Oh, I think this is just the cutest. Amazing. I love this one. This is really, really cool. Again, kind of whimsical, you know, something you probably wouldn't see so much from like a Scandinavian designer, but this is the sort of stuff, if you kind of dive deep into Japanese knitting, this is what you'll find. Okay, next designer is one I've showcased before, I think on my last roundup, actually for work appropriate patterns, which I'll link down below if you're interested in that. This is Hiromi Nagasawa. So she does, I think, really cool, like very wearable patterns, but with like a bit of a fun twist. They've always got like a little extra something going on. So one I wanted to showcase was the Belfair sweater. So this I feel like is very wearable, but it's got that like basket weave look going on, bulky weight. So I think this should knit up probably pretty quickly. And this is, let's see, knit from the top down. So again, pretty classic construction, nothing too crazy going on here, but just a really fun weave to it. I like the cut of it. It's got sort of a split hem on the side. Really interesting, like a nice twist on a classic construction. Then she has the Ridge sweater, which this one I have yarn for this. I have the pattern. I'm going to knit it this summer. This has a couple different options in terms of sleeve lengths. You've got sort of a sleeve like this, sort of a half sleeve and a full long sleeve. This is a fingering weight pattern, knit top down in the round. And the interesting thing is, if you zoom into these pictures, or if you buy the pattern, you'll see all those little ridges are twisted rib. So it's not like typical ribbing, which if you've seen my unpopular knitting opinions video, you'll see I hate ribbing. Twisted rib though, I don't mind as much. So let's see how this goes. If this starts to drive me crazy and I can't do it anymore, you know, you'll find out on the podcast episode, but I think this is such a, you know, the vertical lines, it's just a really, really cool look. So I'm excited to finally cast this one on. And then finally by her, we have the loop tee. So again, you know, on first glance, you're like, okay, this is sort of like a simple kind of t-shirt. This is a DK weight short sleeve top, but it has this awesome pattern on the side, like on the underarm, and it's one giant cable that crosses in one place, kind of in the middle of the sweater, or the t-shirt, excuse me. Really fun. This is a bottom-up construction, which is, I think, kind of unusual for a t-shirt. So curious to see how that goes, but this is one I've had on my list for a long time. I really want to knit this. I think it's just so cool. Like the red one that's in here, beautiful. I love this. So yeah, this is what I mean. She's got patterns that on first glance are like pretty basic, pretty simple, but then you take a closer look and you're like, ooh, something interesting going on. All right, next designer is Yumiko Alexander, and if she has a giant portfolio, so take a look through her Ravelry page, but hers is like pure botanical inspiration, like really cool. So if you love that style, I think you'll like her. And she does a lot of really great airy knits as well. So if you live in an extremely hot climate, or if you're like, I'm gonna be at the beach a ton this summer and I want some, you know, some nice cover-ups for my swimsuits or whatever, look no further. I feel like she is a perfect option for that. So the first one I want to talk about is a pattern called Bamboo. And this has a couple different lengths that you can kind of adjust to, but you know, it's a bamboo type pattern. DK weight, but this is a very airy fabric. So it actually, like when you look at sort of the block patterning, it looks a lot more opaque than it actually is. If you really zoom in, you can see just how airy the gauge is on this. Really stunning. I think this is so fun as like a layering piece, or like I said, for the beach or something. Really, really cool. I just love this idea. Then she has the agave. So here, I mean, this is very explicitly botanical. So you can see this sort of the lace patterning. So Japanese knitting has a lot of lace. You can see a lot of that in her patterns as well. A very airy kind of fit. This is a worsted, and you can see all the lace here, gorgeous. There's two options for the sleeves. So it looks like, let me see, there's flutter sleeves, and then there's regular kind of longer sleeves. So the flutter ones are sort of wider and like maybe about this length, and have some lace edging on them. Very beautiful, kind of kimono inspired actually. She has a couple of those type of patterns where she says it's kind of explicitly a kimono style sleeve. Gorgeous, I love this. Then one that again has a lot of lace, but sort of in a different part of the top, is the Woven Shadows top. So this is kind of in the bottom half. You've got this, it looks almost like a wave pattern. Very cool. Worsted weight pattern. It's a worsted pattern, but again, you know, knit on a very sort of large gauge, I think. So this has 3 sleeve options, actually. Cool. So you can do sleeveless, t-shirt style sleeve, or 3/4 length. So a couple different options here depending on how you want to wear it, which is always nice. And then the last one that I want to showcase from her is a pattern called the Iris top. And this is, just look at this lace pattern. I mean, it's very aptly named. Like I have irises in my garden here, and yes, 100%, it does actually look like this. Beautiful. DK weight, 2 sleeve options on this one. Again, you've got the kimono style sort of longer sleeve, and then she has a shorter sleeve option, which is also really, really pretty. So yeah, I think she's a really great showcase for Japanese lace actually, and just really cool, like incorporating lace and patterns and different botanical ideas into your knitting. I love her portfolio. I think it's so cool. Okay, and then another designer that's new to me is Kiyomi Burgin. So she has, again, we're back to the whimsy. So this first one is called the Tsumiki cardigan. Tsumiki means brick in Japanese. And if you look at the little pattern that's under the underarm here, you know, they're kind of layered bricks. Very cute, but understated, right? I think this is very wearable, as in it's not so crazy that you couldn't like wear this to an office, for example. Especially depending on the colors you choose, you could make this very neutral. And this is reversible, so you can wear this kind of in the front with the buttons, or the back has like a slight V-neck, so you could wear it as like a V-neck sweater with the buttons in the back. So I think some interesting options there. And then she has another pattern that I really love called Mado. Mado means window, and it's a sweater with little windows on it. So cute, worsted weight sweater. And this one is worked flat in pieces from the bottom up. And here's the really fun part, and this is the, you know, what I said about the whimsical. If you zoom in on the pictures of the windows, these are knit in mohair so that they have like a see-through effect. So cute. So cute, love the attention to detail. Just a beautiful, beautiful sweater. I think this is so fun. Okay, now just taking a little detour into accessories. So this is a designer I found called Sachiko Uemura, and I'm not a shawl person, I don't wear shawls, but I saw this one and thought it was just so pretty. This is the blooming shawl, and in this like sunny yellow color, like canary yellow, beautiful. This is a lace weight. Says it's a bottom-up triangular shawl. I'm not a shawl knitter. I don't know how much work or, you know, how heavy of a lift it is to knit something like this in a lace weight, but this beautiful kind of square patterning I think is so pretty. So if I were ever to knit a shawl for somebody, it would be something like this, I think. Very airy, and oh, these pictures, it's beautiful. And then the pattern I find really interesting from her is the fancy cable cowl. So I've knit cowls before. You know, I'm not a huge cowl person. Again, I feel like they always sit a bit weirdly on my neck. Like either they're too tight or they're sort of drooping in the front, so they just look a little bit awkward. I tend to be kind of a throw a scarf on type of person. But this is cool. So not only is the cable pattern really interesting looking, but it also has a drawstring. And I'm like, this is genius. Why do all cowls not just come with a drawstring? Like, this is so smart. That solves the whole problem of like, oh, it's not tight enough. I need it, you know, completely adjustable. So smart. This is a DK weight pattern, and it looks like, yeah, cowl body entirely worked on the round, I-cord threaded through cables. There you go. So it's the I-cord drawstring. Very cool. I just love this. I think it's so fun. Okay, then another designer I love is Yamagara, and her Dawa top I've had on my list for a long time. So this is a, let's see, a lace plus lace making a fingering weight yarn, fingering weight gauge rather, and this is knit top down. I especially love the pattern on the back. So this is what drew me to this. It's got, it gives me a little bit of kind of Sari Nordland vibes, but like with a bit of a lighter feel to it, if that makes sense. Beautiful. This I would love to have in my wardrobe just for like work, you know, wearing over a pencil skirt or, you know, maybe over black pants or something. Love this. And then the other one I really like from her, let me see if I can find it here, is called, oh yeah, very different, but this is called Wild Forests. This is very geometric, I guess is the right way to say this. Sort of a layering piece. It's very loose and slouchy. This is knit out of silk, at least in the pattern photos, so it makes sense. It's got that like very loose and airy feel. And again, the detailing is all in the back. I think this looks like you could probably reverse it, but the front pattern is just a, you know, very simple kind of block. And yeah, if you look at the pictures on the Ravelry page, it looks like the model is wearing it kind of back to front, everything. So this looks like it's completely reversible. Beautiful. I think it's so cool. But, you know, this is a full garment, like almost a sweater basically, in a light fingering is what the gauge is here. So, you know, buyer beware, but beautiful piece for layering. And again, you could do really fun things with the colors here. This is a very neutral sample photo, but you could go crazy with colors and like do this as like a tonal, you know, bright pink version or whatever. I think that there's a lot of options here. Okay, and then the last designer that I want to showcase today is called Ririko, and again, some really fun patterns here. So this is the toge top, toge meaning it's either like a spike or a thorn. So in this case, it means like a thorn. So we're bringing in the botanical again. This is a very interesting construction. So we've got a fingering weight, and this is worked sideways. So if you zoom in on some of the pictures of the front here, you can see you knit like, looks like you knit from the sleeve to the center of the body. So you work the left piece first, then the right, and then I think you join in the middle. Yes, you join in the center using 3 needle bind off. Really cool. And then you can see the little, the kind of the detailing on the side here they look like little spikes. It's so cool. And then another pattern by her that I think got some really cool detailing. This is a round yoke, which if you've watched my channel, you know doesn't really work well, I think, on my shoulders and my body type. But this is called White Lizard. If you love round yokes, take a look at this one. It's got this really cool like diamond pattern. I think given the name, it's probably meant to sort of maybe simulate like scales or something. To me, this looks like diamonds and kind of patterns. But anyway, that's the part at the top. But then if you take a look further down, you can see there's some really nice tapering on the sleeve as well. So it gives kind of a beautiful bell sleeve. And at the bottom, before you go into the ribbing for the hem of the sweater, there's sort of a zigzag pattern, kind of a ridge that goes along the bottom of the sweater too. So there's just interesting details here. This is a fingering weight. So again, it's a full sweater and fingering weight. And again, you've got 2 sleeve options here, 3/4 length or long, worked in the top down seamlessly. So yeah, classic circular yoke. Yeah, again, it's a fingering weight sweater. I don't know if I would put this on my list personally, but I think it's a beautiful sweater. Like I could see somebody wearing this and be like, whoa, like that's gorgeous. And then last but not least, this is my final pattern for this video. This is the Tsunanami pullover. So Tsunanami meaning sandy waves. So I think this is supposed to be simulating a beach. You've got these sort of kind of a horizontal pattern across the front of the sweater, but then a really cool cable pattern that goes all the way down the sleeves as well. This is a fingering weight again, so, right? They like their, but this is what I mean. They're lighter kind of construction. So, you know, you're gonna get less of the like big, heavy Norwegian wool kind of sweaters because it gets cold in parts of Japan, but you know, if you're talking like the big cities like Tokyo, Osaka, like they tend to be sort of temperate climates. So in the summer, it is hot, hot, hot. So yeah, by springtime, you know, this like a fingering weight sweater would be probably all you want to wear. Yeah, this is so cool. I think in a neutral color, you know, for that sort of nature vibe. Love this. So yeah, it's got a cool knot pattern running down the shoulder saddles, and then the really cool horizontal pattern for the sand waves too. So that is it, guys. That was 20 different patterns from different Japanese designers. As I said, I will put the link to my Ravelry bundle down below. So take a look at these patterns, but also these are just ones I picked that I like. Please go to the designers pages and see what else is in there that you think is interesting. Most of these designers are publishing patterns in English as well. So at least the ones I've put on here are, according to Ravelry, they're all in English. So I would think most of their patterns would be as well. But always double check that. But I think, nice to bring some attention to folks who, don't get a lot of airtime on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of these, please let me know. There is also, I put a link down below to my work appropriate pattern roundup video, which I published a couple months ago. So that one is a mix of, there's some Japanese in there, but there's a lot of like Western designers in there too. And that's all tops that, I've kind of put on my list for maybe one day knitting for work. But thank you guys as always for tuning in. Leave me a comment, leave me suggestions, questions. I do try to get to all the comments. So please feel free to reach out. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and I will see you next time. Bye for now.